Everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking to Sahil Patel. Sahil, it's great to connect with you, CEO of Spiralyze, and looking forward to chatting with you. You guys do A/B testing data from the 78,000 sites that actively test to learn kind of what wins, and we're going to talk all about what that means. I love this podcast because I get to talk to guys like you and talk about things that I think a lot of people talk about but don't necessarily do, which is A/B testing. And regardless of any business that they do, right? So sometimes, companies will find, one thing and they go for it, but they kind of miss the A/B testing piece. And so let's just start by talking about, the importance of why we A/B test.
Yeah. So the A/B testing is the best way to know what actually works. Number one. Number two, it's the best way to continually make your website your best sales rep.
Yeah.
Because your website doesn't need to take vacations. Your website doesn't need to take a cold plunge and tell everyone about it on LinkedIn. Your website should always be working.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really well put. So let's talk about that. So let's start from the inside out. What makes a good website?
Well, what makes a good website? Let me narrow down the field a little bit. The stuff I know is B2B SaaS. And
but we can apply it to a lot of things.
Yeah, you can apply to a lot of things, but
so
for our audience,
world and then we'll apply it.
For our audience, because I might say something, and if you're running a laundromat, some of what I say may not matter to you. If you run an e-commerce site, if you sell all your goods on Amazon or Alibaba, maybe none of what I say has any meaning. But for a lot of the world, let me just say that I'll give you three things that make for a good website. First, extreme clarity. In the first 1 or 2 seconds, someone knows what it is and what it's for. Number two, it shows the product, whatever that means. It could be a widget, it could be a piece of software, it could be an intangible good like a service. Number three, it tells you who it's for. Now, I actually think those three principles are broadly applicable to many websites. If I had to add a fourth that's independent of what you're showing on the page, it's just fundamentally the page loads fast. Yeah. You would think I wouldn't have to say this, but there are websites that don't load fast.
Yeah. Okay, good. I like it. And so what's fast?
So let's use something that's free and available to everyone, which is like Google Lighthouse. You can open up a Chrome browser, open up the developer tools. Everyone can do it in every computer, every browser in the world. I think you should measure your time to first contentful paint. I think good is like a second, maybe 2.
Yeah, I say that because, the average attention span is less than a goldfish, less than 7 seconds. And so what you're talking about, I agree, right? 1 to 2 seconds of clarity. It shows your product within, the same milliseconds, who it's for, so they can understand it. We really have, 6-7 seconds. And I know people are saying that that's, is what it is. But if you go back before the internet, studies would show that you have 7 seconds to make a first impression.
I think that sounds right. Yeah.
Right. So that stat has been long before this kind of, smart brevity world that we're in right now to make things go faster. And so it's interesting, I do a lot of marketing and social media and I post a lot of content and And I don't really care how many likes or comments I get. All I care about is that it leads them to my website. And my website leads them to have them watch 1 or 2 of my 1-minute videos. And it leads them to watching or listening to 1 or 2 of my podcasts. Because after that happens and someone is referred to me, my conversion rate is probably 99%.
That's
and
impressive.
So I appreciate what you're saying as far as, the clarity that is needed. One of my favorite books that I've read in the last year and a half is a book called Smart Brevity. I don't know if you've read it, but it talks about the power of,
but I'm going to
saying,
Google it right now while you talk.
Yeah, you should buy it. You should buy it. It's all about, saying more with less. And so, talk to that a little bit in your A/B testing. What are your findings when it comes to that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something simple. An A/B test. In fact, it's not even an A/B test, just a test that everyone who's listening, watching this can do. And I call it the 1 second test. And that's how quick it is. Take your homepage, right click on it. You'll get Google Translate if you're in a Chrome browser, and just pick a language that your friends don't speak. Like choose Arabic, choose Urdu, choose Hindi. I'm picking languages that are spoken in my household growing up. But you can pick anything, okay? And then just go show it to 5 people that are like acquaintances, not your close friends, not your family, just acquaintances. Just say, hey, what do you think this company does? Now, what you're not looking for is, oh yeah, they're fintech point of sale software for restaurants in standalone locations. Nothing that specific. If they even get it to like, looks like some kind of software or maybe some kind of purchasing platform or something, I think you're doing really well. And if they look at it and they go, cat food? Sweaters?
Yeah.
It's a sign that you're not cutting through. And the reason this test works is because it removes the copywriting. And too many people are overly relying on the copywriting, and your brain processes images faster than words. So if you rely on the words, you're going to lose them. And if you use imagery that's stock images of happy people, everyone's using those, right? But if you do something that's just simple, crisp, specific, it doesn't need to be fancy, it doesn't need to be animated. In fact, animated usually hurts conversions.
I agree. That's always been. I mean, back to when Netscape was out, and when the internet. I started an internet company when I was out of college when I was 23, and even back then, the JavaScript and it slowed everything down. And that has not really changed.
Let me just drive down the road. When you see the McDonald's arches, you know what you're in for, right? Yeah. Whether you like McDonald's or not.
Yeah.
You get that instant recognition.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not talking about the brand that they've built. I mean, that's incredible. They've had 80 years to build that kind of brand recognition. It's just, you know what you're getting. You're not going there if you want a 5-star white tablecloth meal.
No. But ironically, McDonald's, if you did that test, you may actually say toy store. They're one of the largest toy store. You consider one of the largest toy stores.
Toy retailers, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about you. So B2B, so you're helping B2B SaaS websites. Okay.
That's our sweet spot. We do some other stuff, but that 80% of what we do, B2B SaaS in the mid-market enterprise.
Yeah. Range. And what are some of your findings that, you're seeing in that world? Because so far, everything you're talking about, I think, is transferable and applicable.
Transferable to everyone. Okay.
To everybody. But what are some of the things that you're finding?
Okay. So big one is happy people hurt conversions using stock imagery. And you see it all the time in B2B SaaS. They'll show the person with their arms crossed or holding a laptop. The idea is that you're somehow using the product. It turns out if you just show a picture of your product, you get more conversions. It's a really high performing test. And you can strip out a lot of the other things that are candidly distracting your audience. So that's a great high performing A/B test, number one. Because, imagine a car ad. Remove the car. What are you left with? Some people sitting around a campfire. That's number one. Number two, we'll come to extreme brevity. Right, what your audience is doing is they're keyword scanning. They're looking for things that tell them they're in the right place. So bullet points, bolding, short, choppy language. Your 9th grade AP English teacher would absolutely detest this. But in B2B SaaS websites, it absolutely performs better than the big wall of text.
Yeah.
Number 3, social proof. Adding social proof really works. Now, I'll give you some general trends, some data points we've seen. Generally, the enterprise audience tends to convert better with logos or trust badges, because they weigh things like that G2, or if you've got the Gartner, what's it called, Magic Quadrant, that carries a lot of currency
Yeah.
in the enterprise crowd. Less so in mid-market, and even less so in the SMB market. These are not iron laws, okay? These are just general trends. And then conversely, direct testimonials tend to perform really well with mid-market and SMB. The principle here, though, is cuts across all of them, which is people want to know that you solve problems for people like them and with problems like they have. So if you're selling to the SMB and you put 5 of your fanciest logos because you want to say, hey, we're legit, that might actually be hurting you, because Sahil's dry cleaner comes on there and goes, okay, they're selling into Walmart. Wow, this thing must be expensive, right? And they've preconceived an anchor that may not be accurate. Likewise, if you're enterprise and you put up some case studies, because you've got some customers that are just really impressive and are absolutely raving about your product, but they happen to be from brands that no one's ever heard of. And you're for the enterprise may want to be, okay, these are no-name brands. They probably don't have the compliance and the privacy and the high-level support that I need as an enterprise customer. They're they're getting the wrong impression. They think you're not for people like them. So great set of A/B tests is to try different social proof. It's not always necessarily about getting more conversions, although that moves the needle. It's you want to get the right conversions. And so I've seen great A/B tests that are flat on the overall number of conversions, but are a big win because when you look behind the data, it's getting the same number of leads or sales ops, but it's getting the right ones, the ones that they want.
Yeah. It's great. It's so interesting because I think so many people think the opposite, of what you're talking about. And I think what you talk about lends to the idea of something that I see every day, is where those pictures may have worked a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. That doesn't mean that they're working today. I think sometimes people are stuck in yesteryears for too long because the shelf life, from what I see in working with companies, I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies, owners, executives, managers, salespeople. And what I see, and I talk a lot about every element of their business, is the shelf life keeps on getting shorter and shorter of what is right in the moment for fill in the blank. And so can you kind of talk a little bit about, a shelf life? Like, we're recording this live on February 26, 2025. The way the world is going, it could be April where things shift even a smidge, where I think companies sometimes don't keep their eye on the ball and forecasting out where change is starting to happen.
Oh, it's so hard to do it. What a wonderful question.
Yeah. And so their website is the same for, I'm going to go back to what you said. It should be their best sales piece, but sometimes it stays exactly the same for 17 years, 5 years, 3 years. I just redid my whole website because my instinct told me it was just a little stale, but it was great, but it needed to be slightly refreshed. And so can you just talk about shelf life?
Yeah, shelf life, let me say, if I had to put a number, like how long, if you have a homepage today, how long should you expect it to perform at the level at which you're getting today? Okay, now we actually have some data on this. I think 12 months is a safe bet. Okay, now let's cut out if you are in some kind of frontier technology, that's probably not the case. It's going to be shorter. But if you're like a big MarTech vendor in an established category or a somewhat established category, 12 months is good. I think at the tip, about 18 to 24 months. Now, if you want to say what's best practice, the best practice companies I see are testing their homepage at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
Okay. That doesn't mean they blow it up and kind of change it. Although I encourage everyone, you should take at least one big swing a year. It could be a set of messaging tests, different headline. It could be changing out the social proof. It could be, hey, let's try some different imagery. And they might go through as many as 4 different homepages a year.
Yeah.
That's best practice. really good companies, ones we see.
Right.
Because by the way, when you do that, you're lowering your CAC
Yeah.
every quarter. You're creating structural advantage over your competitors that aren't doing this.
Let's talk about knowing what the customer needs today, wants today, doesn't know what they need tomorrow or today, frankly, and how to get in touch with that, how to really know that. I can tell you one of the things I talk to clients about all the time, it doesn't matter what the position, and the higher the position in a company, the more important I think it is that people aren't enough executives, enough owners, enough managers, enough salespeople aren't talking to the client. They're, by the way, marketing agencies and branding agencies are great. I think they're well worth the money and they do amazing things as long as you pick the right company. But sometimes the best intel comes from the CEO, the president, the owner, the manager, picking up the phone and calling 10 clients, because typically after 5, they start telling you the same themes.
That's right.
And so what is your suggestion on how to really, the old story goes, if Henry Ford had asked people what they want, they would have said faster horses.
Faster horses.
Yeah.
I love that. It's such a good, and I think it's apocryphal, but I love that story and I use it.
Right.
Here's what I would say.
Yeah. Tell me.
Yeah. I think there's 3 things that I would do. One of which is just maybe 2 of them are maybe scientific. The other is more anecdotal, but I think you should do it. I mean, the first is whatever title you hold, you need to be on sales calls every week. I try to get to at least 10 sales calls every week. I try to be on at least 5 existing customer calls every week.
Yeah. Metrics.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Not because
I just want to layer in something. Think Community, we talk a lot about metrics and predictability, accountability, self-accountability, doing the small things that lead to something big. Metrics are a big piece to hold for self-accountability. If you don't have that, you got to have somebody to hold you accountable. But those little things go a long way. When I used to sell apartment buildings, I was in commercial real estate for a while, and I knew if I made 300 calls a week and set up 7 meetings and attended about 10 meetings, right, I knew my metrics, then my business would grow. So I just wanted to kind of highlight.
I'm with you. And by the way, it feels like grunt work, but it's the best work. And I've heard this from maybe, hey, that doesn't scale. I will tell you one thing that definitely does not scale is not having the voice of the customer.
Correct.
I've worked at small companies. I've worked at big companies. I've worked at companies that were publicly traded. Now, that was early in my career. I wasn't I was junior peon, but I was at a company, Med Assets, incredible company, incredible leadership. John Bardis was the CEO. We had an IPO. We're talking, market cap in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And he was on sales calls and customer calls every week.
Correct. If you don't have the voice of the customer, you don't, you lose. You lose. So
that's number 1. I would call that maybe the art form, because I can't prescribe the exact number, but you should be doing it. I'll say just. Oh, go ahead, please, John.
No, I just want to say one thing on that.
Yeah.
The reason you talk to the customer is because if the customer is saying the same thing, you're going to wake up one day and make those calls, and there's going to be a slight pause in something that they're saying. And then there's going to be that 1 second pause, and then a 3-second pause before they answer. That pause tells you a lot. That pause means you need to begin to kind of forecast change on consumer behavior and how they're receiving and purchasing and using whatever product or service. So I think those calls, the consistency and the continual, never stopping component of that is so important, because it's not about, hey, I called 5 people once a quarter. It's about really being in touch with the pauses.
Number 2, I recommend, we use a service called Winter with a W, Winter. It's a message testing service. It's unique, incredible CEO, Pep. If you guys don't know him, check him out on LinkedIn. And it's a great way to scientifically get input from your ideal customer profile. Use a little bit of jargon, ICP. And you basically get to rent their network. And so if you're a cybersecurity company, your network is mid-level directors who are thinking about perimeter security for their network, you can go into the bottom. You can actually pick the exact, you say how many you want directors, you want VPs, do you want ops people, and you can have them give you direct recorded feedback about what they think. So you might say, hey, I'm launching a campaign. Does this landing page resonate with my audience? You pick your audience. I want to do a new homepage, and I want it to stand out against my 2 competitors. You can tell them, look at these 3 homepages and tell me what resonates, what doesn't. Incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Now, number 3, the other thing you can do that's the kind of the stats guy in me also likes is tools like user testing, where you can get quantitatively based feedback from people who are
Yeah.
on the website using it. All of those 3 things are great. Now, to me, they're all under the umbrella of A/B testing, right? You should
Yeah.
A/B test. I mean, even back up. I mean, I said that wrong. I'm gonna do another take. I know we're live. I would put those all under the umbrella of optimization.
Okay.
Some optimization can be done via A/B testing. Gold standard: randomize your traffic or your audience, split them, make sure both are representative, and compare the differential. Does version A or version B compare best? And it works for many things. It doesn't work for all things, and it doesn't work for everyone. Okay, but under the bigger thing of optimization, all the things I described, getting on customer calls, do some kind of message testing with your exact audience, do some kind of user polling or user testing. Those are 3 distinct things to do. I think almost everyone who has a website can do those things, and they're forms of optimization. And then if you want to take it to the gold standard, do some A/B testing.
Yeah, I love it. Right. It goes back to just being at the eye doctor, right? A or B, what's clearer? Sometimes it's just a little fogginess.
It's the ultimate A/B test. By the way, reminds me, I'm overdue again, ophthalmologist. Oh man, I'm 46, and so I'm nearsighted naturally, so I just wear them to see far. But my eyesight's starting to flip, and it's getting harder.
I just got new glasses because my script changed, and just a little bit. All right, quick speed round.
Cool. I know we're almost done. Let's do it.
Book that's had a big impact on you.
Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. Go back. It was published in the early 90s, late 80s. And it was super prescient about the internet, social media, avatars. We didn't have the phrases for some of the things that we call it now. Incredible book.
Yeah, I love it. That sounds like an interesting book. That reminds me of a book I read, around that same time-ish, called Permission Marketing by Seth Godin, which basically was, he's great. And he basically laying the foundation back then, which seemed kind of, it was such a brand new thinking. If you buy this, then the internet's going to tell you, well, 4 other people bought this, so you may like that. You may like this. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received.
Whew, boy, that's hard. I'm going to go back to something my dad told me, which was, hey, wherever you go, you're representing, whether you like it or not, you're representing our family. You're probably representing Indian people in general, because I grew up in a small town in Ohio. Other than my brother, we made up most of the Indian population. He's like, you just got to be the best at what you do.
Yeah. Well said. Where in Ohio?
Outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, for those who may know it, near Kings Island. It's called Montgomery, Ohio.
My dad's from Akron. I have a ton of family.
Oh yeah, I know Akron. Yeah, up north. Yeah, north of Columbus.
Yeah, Swanson's Hamburgers. If you've ever eaten there, it's great.
Yeah, I think I know. Skyline Chili is the big thing in Montgomery.
Okay, yeah, Swanson Hamburgers is the big thing in Akron. They're the best. All right, so last question. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to start implementing A/B testing into their world is
take a big swing and replace all the stock imagery on your website with just a single great screenshot of your product.
It's great.
Try it.
Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and where they can connect with you.
Yeah. So we work with the mid-market and I'd call lower enterprise type of customers that are B2B SaaS, 30 million in annual recurring revenue and upward. Usually they're 200 to 300 employees and upward. So companies like CrowdStrike, Bamboo HR, Angie's List, are the kind of companies we work with.
Great.
And
Well,
where can they find me? Thanks. I'll give my shameless self promo. Check me out on LinkedIn. I post 4 mornings a week at 7:30 a.m. Try to do 2 to 3 minute clips, some edutainment. I have a game show called CRO Crimes, where we battled out over landing pages. The winner gets $100 for their charity. It's a lot of fun.
It's cool. It's cool. This was great. I enjoyed this conversation, and appreciate you taking time to be on the show. I think community.
John, thanks for having me.
You know, I'm a business coach. I work with successful people who are stuck to get them unstuck. And I love this podcast because I get to have guests like you to help give people tools to get them unstuck. And you gave a ton. I want to highlight a couple things. I think community is so important for clarity. And the 3 things that you talked about for the website were extreme clarity, show the products, and who it's for. Make sure that you are crystal clear. You have 7 seconds to get somebody's attention. We're in the attention economy. Attention is always changing depending on the day, the season, the environment, etc. So be smart, be in touch with your customer, and lastly, call your clients so you know what they're thinking and you can forecast effectively. Thanks, man. This was great. I enjoyed it. We'll have to have you back on again and talk about A/B testing.
I would be
Give
honored.
me your website one more time.
Spiralyze.com.
All right. And you can reach me if you want to chat about business coaching at jondwoskin.com. Stay on for a minute. We'll catch up. Thanks, everybody.